Saturday morning, the day after the attack in Paris. Last night, as I was in my apartment with no vision to the street but an open window, I heard the attacks. I heard the machine gun fire. I heard the explosions. I heard people screaming. I heard people being killed. At that point, I was very thankful that I was in an Airbnb apartment because the hosts invited me downstairs to join themselves, their grandchildren, and the two people who were in an apartment upstairs. I was very well taken care of. They brought me chocolate, they made me tea, and they gathered around me and said, "Sit on the couch." One of the things that I most admire about last night was the couple upstairs went out onto the street and retrieved a man who had been at the heavy metal concert 2 doors down that was in a hostage-taking situation. Apparently he'd been found as he had run on the street out in front of our apartment. He had a bullet through the left thigh, and they brought him in. He was most concerned about his girlfriend, who he believed was in the hostage-taking situation within the theater. He had to wait a great extended period of time with that bullet in his leg because the entire neighborhood was on lockdown and people were not allowed out on the street. They could not in any conscience send ambulance care workers into the situation. Later on in the evening, we got a phone call and the police asked if everyone were in the house that belonged here. We intuited at this point that they were about to storm the theater next door, and they just wanted to make sure they didn't catch anybody in the crossfire. We could hear the attack of the police on the theater. There weren't a great many shots fired. There was a lot of yelling, but it was quick, and the shots were fired, and then the reported 2 men who had taken everyone hostage were, it was said that the police had killed them. At that point, the couple upstairs retrieved a La Presse reporter who had been shot through his upper left arm, close to the elbow, and he was bleeding. He looked like he was in a great deal of pain. They cared for his wound, and he sat in a chair with his left arm elevated and continued to phone in his story with his cell phone in his right hand. 3 armed army men came into the apartment, swept through, gathered me up, and told me to put my shoes on. I assume that was because if there was another gunman in the area, that we would have to be evacuated even if it was at risk at that point. So we were all downstairs, and that's when it got kind of crowded in the small apartment because we had 3 armed military men. We had a man laying on the floor, bleeding from his wound in his thigh, and we had a La Presse reporter sitting in a chair. The 2 people who own this apartment had their grandchildren visiting, so the grandchildren were in a situation where they were undergoing a lot of traumatic experiences. The parents phoned and asked that the children please not be allowed to view the television because on the television were images after an extended period of time of ambulance workers and police going into the alley and the street right in front of where I'm staying and picking bodies up. I saw one body being picked up and in a carry across the arms position and taken out via TV reporting. And the second body was simply slung over the shoulder of one of the attendants because this person was obviously already dead. The next stage was a sense of alertness for what is unknown. Because the attacks were so orchestrated and because they were reported to be in 4 places simultaneously, and now the news is coming through that it may have been actually more. However, I don't know if that's the usual kind of exaggerated panic after some shocking, horrendous event or not. Finally, at about 4 o'clock in the morning, the sirens quieted, and everyone in this apartment finally went to sleep. The children were the first, and then the couple that had been so proactive in trying to help people went upstairs to go to sleep, and then the older couple that own the entire structure finally went to sleep. I did my last online report close to 4 a.m. And at that point, because I am a practiced meditator, I simply sat meditation and focused my mind on the things that I had seen that were about people helping people, people reaching out to people, and being courageous. And that is what I would like everyone to think about. The young men who are wearing police uniforms are young men. We're traumatizing one another. I ask that people do not use this as an occasion to spread hate, to put the world into an even more vicious cycle of the us and them, where attacks can be set up on others because we have dehumanized them in our minds. This attack is a result of the process of not seeing the humanity in others. I say now, right now, is the time for us to look at one another with compassion. Thank you.